Hello, cyberspace. It's me, Angie, and I welcome both you and your ears to an episode of Life, Love, Music, and Space Travel. In case you're wondering who Angie is, I'm Angie, and I'm super stoked to spend some time sharing with y'all some of my experiences and thoughts on living, loving, music, and space travel, or spiritual experiences as I often refer to as space travel. A rather broad spectrum, right? Well, my hope is to always share something that resonates with, intrigues, excites, or perhaps inspires you. On that note, I invite you to sit back, buckle up, and take a little trip out into the cosmos with me. Hello. It's me, Angie, and I'm back for episode 3. Hello to you, my listeners out in cyberspace. Thanks for joining me. I made it. It's been a little bit of a challenge getting back for episode 3. Today is Monday. Here on the East Coast, it's about 10:57 p.m. And I had originally decided that I was going to record, publish, and release episode number 3 last night. I got home eventually after a long day, feeling under pressure, self-imposed pressure that is, sat in front of the computer for a little while and actually recorded for 45 minutes. When I got to the editing process of listening, I thought, oh my goodness, what have I done? It was a bunch of noise. I feel like I jabbered on. It was too much information. I talked really fast. I don't know. It was very uncomfortable. So I'm just working through the process of, getting comfortable with this whole deal. And so today I decided to sleep in. So last night anyway, finishing it up, I closed the computer off. I decided to trash the recording and I went to bed. Woke up today, slept in pretty late. The dogs would not let me sleep in anymore. I got up, fed the doggies, went to the beach, did some shark tooth hunting and shelling, found some really great stuff out there down at Curry Beach, the Green Rocks area. Sunny, a little chilly, but pretty wonderful. Came home, took the dogs for a walk, went out for some fellowship tonight, and now I'm home, feeling pretty relaxed. I got a cup of tea by my side, and I'm ready to do a little bit of chatting to my friends out in cyberspace. Really, thanks, listeners, for joining me. By the time you hear this, it will be Tuesday, but it's Monday right now, still, for another hour. I had a pretty crazy, busy week. I'm going to put this all under the life category. I worked a lot this week, getting up to the end and setting aside this podcast. I decided to wait until the last minute. I worked Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, including a Saturday double and sort of a Friday double. And my work life and my spiritual life are kind of out of balance right now. I don't know how it is for anybody else out there in the world. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one who struggles with finding balance. I've worked pretty hard, though, I will say, prior to getting here to North Carolina. I had sort of gotten into a groove of placing my spiritual life kind of first, fitting my work life in and around the spiritual life, because I need to have, be heavy on the spiritual side. But right now, I'm living kind of in the material world. Work is sort of at the forefront. I'm really doing my best to offer my time. They need it. The restaurant is, not to say understaffed, but they're just in the new hiring phase. And so I'm taking on some extra shifts, when I can. And anyway, that being said, some of the other stuff is sort of falling by the wayside. I haven't been to the gym in a while. I really need to go get back to Planet Fitness. It is right around the corner. And I'm feeling it. I definitely am feeling that sort of out of shape, wanting to get back to feeling good. Thank goodness for the Vitamix. That's definitely been adding in that's a healthy component and bringing about some feel good stuff. So anyway, here I am tonight recording, thinking about what is it that I have to say? What do I want to share with the world? What do you guys want to hear from me? I really do hope that eventually some more people will reach out and share with me, I don't know, the things that they'd like to hear about. ASHYisbadass@gmail.com. Please feel free and send me some topic ideas, things that you would like me to investigate, communicate on, share my experience, strength, and hope, regarding those situations. But in the meantime, that as I said, life has been continuing to progress forward. It's been about a week since my last episode, 2 weeks since my first episode. Oh gosh, I don't know. Not a whole lot has really happened with me overall, but I'm feeling okay, I guess. Pretty happy with my continuing on this process. A friend of mine last night said to me, I sent him a text, and my friend Alex, he who I've mentioned, he has the Builder's Journey podcast, and I sent him a message telling him how tweaked out I was kind of with this, trying to sit in front of the computer and what do I have to say, and I'm feeling overwhelmed and challenged and vulnerable, and after sort of feeling like I failed at following through with my goal of getting my podcast episode released by today, he sent me a text that said, "Welcome to the wonderful and sometimes terrifying world of solo casting." And that is how it feels. It does feel wonderful and pretty terrifying. I'm like, who am I talking to? I'm sitting here in my bedroom, which is really my sanctuary. It's pretty wonderful. My snoozing pooches on the bed, sleeping soundly. It's pretty comforting. My parents my mom, I think, has gone to bed, and my dad's chilling out watching something on TV or YouTube, and yet I'm in here talking to you. I do know that there are listeners out there. I've been seeing it on my Libsyn reporting information. I think 97 people have somewhat downloaded the episodes. I don't know if they've listened to the whole thing, but that's pretty cool. Somebody in Spain, somebody in Madagascar, for goodness sake. A friend of mine, I'm pretty sure, in Switzerland. Then there's I think one in Belgium, maybe, or two in Belgium. Plenty in the United States. And I'm incredibly grateful for everyone who has taken the time to listen, and especially for those who have taken the time to reach out to me and share with me your super kind kudos along with constructive criticism. I can use the constructive criticism for sure. Somebody that I work with shared with me a bit of information that I'm taking to heart, and I'm going to continue to grow in this area. So life. I'm going to jump right into my second topic because it's really been what's been on my mind lately. Love. Love is a many-splendored thing. There's my great singing voice. But I've been thinking a lot about love. I'll also say I've been listening to a really great, I've mentioned it before, but I'm listening to actually a new book on Audible, Dave Grohl's Storyteller. So Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, also from, as we all know, Nirvana originally. And as I'm learning now, he was in a band called Scream before that. Maybe that was one of the first bands he was in where he really toured at like 17 or 18. But the book Storyteller is really fantastic. It has been wonderful to hear his love for music, for sure. I mean, he's talked about love in a lot of different areas, but his love for music, and it's taken me back and sort of reminded me about my love for music. I'll touch on that a little bit more. My first concert, the first song that I ever learned the lyrics to. But love, he's been, talking about his first love and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm going to reach directly into Poddex. I've mentioned it before, Poddecks, Poddex, and it's a great app, or you can actually get the physical decks. And it just has a ton of different topics and questions. So very handy in the podcast world if you come to a moment where you need some conversation, motivator. And This one is out of, I think this is out of the self-growth section. I could be wrong, or maybe it's in the love section. But the question that it's asking is, what feeling have you been experiencing the most lately? And so directly and related to love, I'm very aware that I have been having this feeling of longing for sort of a romantic companionship. I've been thinking a lot about love. I don't know if I know what love is. I have said it over and over again. I love my dogs. Goodness gracious, I love them. And I know they love me, and, I love my parents, and I love my brother, and, I love my friends. But I've been thinking about, this desire that I have, this longing for companionship. And I know, I guess it could also be for, friend companionship. I have mentioned before, I am recently divorced, or, been divorced for actually a little over a year. But we just finally moved out of the house that we had been living in together. We moved out in December. It's been, after 18 years of living with someone, man, it's challenging to not be in that situation anymore, even though things were pretty rough and tough for both of us. And it surely wasn't very fun at the end by any means. But there was still something about being in the house with someone. And I have my parents here. But I've definitely been experiencing a feeling of longing for a companion. I have some concerts coming up, and, who am I going to go to the concert with? And yes, I could surely just ask some friends too, but that's just me being honest. I do look forward to having a loving relationship again at some point. What feeling have y'all been experiencing the most lately? I'd really love to hear. There's that word love again. I'd love to hear how you guys are feeling out there. Let's see. Moving on again, a little bit forward here. I'm just going to move into the music department because this storyteller book has been incredibly inspiring and is making me, like I said, reminisce on my early music days. First concert I ever went to was Men at Work, actually, at Saratoga Performing Arts Center. And I recall standing in line with my dad, packed, lines were packed, standing in line with my dad. And we ended up getting 3 Men at Work tickets and 1 Grateful Dead ticket. And he said to me, he's like, oh, we got 3 Men at Work tickets and a Grateful Dead ticket. And I was like, who are the Grateful Dead? I had no idea who they were at that point. Today they are one of my favorite bands for sure, next to Steely Dan. I think Grateful Dead and Steely Dan are my 2 favorite bands. But, just thinking back on how important music has been in my life. Oh my goodness, my parents were and still are music lovers. They had a great vinyl collection. They still do have a great vinyl collection. But they did, we went to see Billy Joel together. My dad actually won tickets at one point to John Cougar Mellencamp. He wrote a poem about his small town, and we won backstage passes and a limo ride. Those were the kind of things we did when I was growing up. Dad got me concert tickets for graduation. I think it was Bon Jovi, Skid Row, and oh gosh, I'm not sure who else. I feel like there was somebody else at that point. But I spent countless summers at SPAC with Roman, John, Jim, a.k.a. Forrest, Jen, Roddy. We had, countless concerts throughout the summer. It was great, out in the parking lot. Some of them that I don't recall so well. But many I saw Elton John and Eric Clapton, Guns N' Roses, that's just to name a few. Heart, I saw, so many. I actually saw Fish and Santana, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Motorhead, Ugly Kid Joe, and Ozzy Osbourne. Just the list could go on and on. I recall camping out on the parking lot, or I'm not sure, not the parking lot, but camping out on the sidewalk to get tickets for the Dead at the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany. Oh, music has been such a wonderful part of my life. I can't imagine life without it. And so listening to this, Dave Grohl Storyteller's book, which you can get on Audible, that's where I happen to be listening to it, is also getting me super jazzed up, pun intended, or it's not really a pun, but super jazzed up for Jazz Fest, because the Foo Fighters are headlining the third day. I'll be there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday of Jazz Fest, and I'm excited about seeing the Foo Fighters. My dear friend Jean Sweet, Jean Morrison actually officially, has always loved her. I think maybe her and her husband had a first date at a Foo Fighters concert, and I've never seen them, but I'm very much looking forward to seeing them. Oh gosh, let's see. Once again, thinking about music, it's just it's life-changing. I'd love to see or hear your first concerts. Who did you go see? Who do you want to see? I listened to another great audiobook, the Beastie Boys book. I don't have a lot of regrets. I don't have many regrets in this life, but one of my regrets, I guess, to a certain extent, is not seeing the Beastie Boys in concert. Oh, it makes me sad that they'll never perform again in their full trio, but the Beastie Boys book was a spectacular listen for sure. It had a bunch of musical additions in there, and just they started off, they were a punk band, really, and they've done so much in their career and they played with many different musicians. It's just it's a pretty, I don't know, the musical journey. I look forward to seeing more concerts. Yeah, allowing myself to just sit back, relax, and take in the music. I'm missing Colorado's musical venues, especially Red Rocks. Last summer, I got to see quite a few concerts. I went and saw Bob Weir and the Wolf Brothers. I saw one night and then 2 nights of Weir and Wolf at Ford Amphitheater in Vail, Colorado. Tiny little amphitheater. It was a great venue to go see anything. If you happen to be in town, definitely stop in to see something. I actually saw the Trey Anastasio band there, which was spectacular. But Red Rocks, it's a great place to see live music. I saw Britt Floyd, Joe Bonamassa, and there's just nothing quite like standing at the top of the stairs, even in overlooking downtown Denver, and the wind is blowing and the musical notes are blowing through the air. Sometimes there's a thunderstorm and you can see lightning overhead. I got to see Steely Dan there quite a few years ago. I've seen a lot of music there. Yeah, now I'm getting all jazzed up with the musical stuff that's going to be going on in my life this summer eventually. I do want to say, as I mentioned earlier, the work thing, I have been working a lot, and, it's just making me, I'm grateful. I'm kind of all over the place, but I'm really grateful about how far I've come. Here I am in this new place, starting over again, beginning again. I feel like I've been gifted this spectacular group of people to be around. There was a time in my life when I was a terrible employee. Terrible. I don't think, many people struggled to work with me. I was either hungover or bitching about something and complaining about something and, making somebody miserable. It's nice these days, and I've been a pretty good employee for a few years now. This team of people that I work with, they're pretty special. I worked a lot this week, and they allowed me to go home on Sunday. They said, why don't we let Angie go home early? Oh, and I needed it. It feels good to be appreciated, and I just want them to know that I appreciate them. A friend of mine also asked me when I was mentioning, how fortunate I felt about having this job. They said, out of curiosity, have you ever been fired? And as I reflect back on that, as terrible as of an employee as I was, I've really only been fired once. Everything prior to being fired, I had always quit first. I made sure I got out of Dodge before they had the chance to fire me. But I did get fired once. I was fired from the Vail Valley Jet Center. At that time, I still happened to be smoking weed. and I failed a random drug test. It was random. I was probably, legitimately the best employee I had been, in my life at that time, and they weren't suspecting anything. But, there came the random drug test, and I did not pass it, and that was okay. It was like on my 40th birthday, I think. I took it. I had been praying for some change in my work life, and that happened to be the form that it came in. And that was actually pretty good, because at that point, I think I decided that I would start my eBay business after that. I slowly got into learning how to do everything I needed to do to run my own eBay business. And since then, I have actually never been reliant on a job full time anywhere else. It feels really good to have somewhat of my own gig, even though I haven't had it for the last year. But eBay's been a spectacular outlet for me to, shop and do the things that I love as far as thrifting. I'm a junker, picker, thrifter. Have been a mini hoarder to a certain extent at times in the past. My favorite thing to, quote, collect is vinyl and books. I'm a media lover, but eBay's been a great outlet. I sell a lot of vinyl. I sell a lot of books. It's been 15 years, I think, since I've had the business. I have admittedly sold at least $100,000 worth of stuff, which may not seem a lot over a 15-year period, but I really only did it part-time. And I am just about to now get back into selling some more stuff. I've been missing it, but this life transition that I've been in the midst of has had me put eBay on the sidelines. So anyway, this has really been all over the place. I'm not exactly sure what message I'm going to be sharing through this third episode, but I think for myself, in truth, it's going to be a pretty powerful practice for me to just get this third episode out. I don't want to quit at this. I don't want to let my fear, anxiety, or trepidation as to whether this podcast forum is my thing. I don't want anything to get in the way of it, and so I apologize straight up if I seem to be all over the place and a little bit discombobulated still, but I'm going to get this episode out. I appreciate your patience with me and indulgence, especially if this one doesn't have so much to offer. I'm going to say thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking the time out to walk with me on this journey. I'm very excited. I do have some things up and coming, and so there'll be a little bit more structure perhaps to some of my future episodes. But for right now, this is kind of it. I'm working and oiling my vocal wheels, just trying to stick to the process. I have to get up early tomorrow, take one of my furry babes to the vet again. There's been, she's having some blood work done. They've both had some blood work done, but there were some issues with the vet. I don't know, they lost her blood work, and now I've got to take her back in. She's got to get poked again. And it's for myself, it's going to be a practice in using my voice. It's kind of been a weird experience with this vet having a new vet. I've had the same vet for the last 16 years actually in Colorado. And it's kind of been challenging to transition to another place where they don't know my vets, they don't know my babes. I'm sorry. For 16 years, I've seen Sheila Fitzpatrick, Mountain Mobile Animal Hospital in Eagle, Colorado, right on Broadway. Their staff is great. I love them. Dr. Michelle has actually seen my babes for the last few years, but Sheila has been a pretty steadfast fixture in the life of my animals, and I appreciate her and what her business offers. So coming to this new place, it's not been a real smooth transition, but I am going to give it a shot, go in, allow my voice to be heard, and that's growth for me. I'm growing. I'm continuing to grow. I'm continuing to learn. I'm continuing to use my voice, especially here on, this forum. So let's see. Oh, I will say it was really crazy recently. Having lived in Colorado for quite some time, I am used to driving in some crazy weather. We had winter storms and blizzards and driving on the highway like it was a Star Wars movie, and the snow is just flying at you and you can't see the car in front of you. I got pretty good. I was pretty good at driving in the snow. And the other day here in Carolina, holy cow, the wind was whipping. There were tornado warnings, and on my way to work, I thought my car might get blown over the bridge. It sounds a bit like I'm exaggerating, but there was a part of me that thought, holy shit, I don't know if my car is going to get blown off the road. I drive a pretty small car, a Suzuki Grand Vitara. Man, she has carried me for a long time. I give that car quite a bit of credit, and I'm very grateful for, the miles that she's taken me. But it was crazy. I said to one of the gals when I got to work, I thought, oh my goodness, what I would give to be driving in a blizzard. And she looked at me and she said no one ever. We in Colorado know differently. I actually enjoyed some of that winter weather driving. Take it slow, turn on the radio, have a nice slow journey home. I think I really would prefer that than the hurricane style winds that go blowing here. But, that's what I get. A whole new experience, a new place, new challenges. I'll stay in today and take it for what it is. Let's see here. Oh, so I'll finish up with, my space travel component. I did chat a little bit on how I was going to have a consult with, I believe it was the nurse practitioner with the Future Psych Ketamine Clinic out of Myrtle Beach. And I did have my consult last Tuesday. Went very well. I really felt very comfortable with the gal. She was very inquisitive, made me feel very comfortable, and I'm very much looking forward to getting in there for my next appointment, which is scheduled in early April. They're pretty booked. One of their offices has been open for 10 years. So as I have mentioned, this is actually not a new process. It's just not something that's been mainstream by any means, but I'm pretty excited about continuing with using that clinical setting as a component for my mental health. I have admittedly, been challenged a little bit here and there with some small bouts of depression, and recently lost a friend to suicide, sadly. Last Monday, they decided to tap out of the game of life. And I don't say that lightly in any way, shape, or form. It's very unfortunate, heartbreaking. And it's just a reminder for me, to put the message out there for anyone struggling. There are so many different opportunities for help. Please use the suicide hotline. Whether you're thinking of actually voting yourself off the island, taking your own life, please, 1-800-273-8255. 1-800-273-8255. They are waiting and would love to hear from you. Most communities have some sort of a local helpline. In Eagle, Colorado, I know they have the Eagle Valley Hope Line, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the number for it, but I will include it in my show notes. Please use those outlets. We can put a lot of things in front of why we're not doing something, but, do the thing you don't want to do. Call somebody, ask for help, reach out. It makes me very sad to see people leave. I don't want to say before their time because I don't know when anyone's time is, but we have a lot of options for the issues that we are challenged with. So please reach out and ask for help, because I love you. Somebody loves you. You will be missed. There's always a reason to keep going on. On that note, I am going to finish it up, I think. This has been a little bit of a back and forth all over the place episode. I really, really hope you were able to get something out of it, even if it was just the suggestions for some listening. I will repeat again, Dave Grohl's Storyteller. I'm only about an hour and a half maybe into it, and it's really been, it's very enjoyable. So take some time, listen to it, check out the audio. I use Audible as my audio book app, and it's on there. They had a recent sale on books, so I did a splurge and bought all kinds of books, and that's one of them. Thanks for listening. I appreciate your indulgence. Please come back for episode 4. I'm thinking it'll be out in about a week. Until then, be gentle with yourselves. You'll hear it all in my closing audio. I love you. Thanks for listening. Bye. So we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks so very much for listening. It's now time to reconnect to planet Earth and all that comes with living on the blue ball. I'd love to hear your ideas for future episode topics, along with any and all positive and or constructive feedback. Please feel free to contact me at ashyisbadass@gmail.com. Thanks again for spending some time with me and allowing me to share myself with you. Until next time, please be gentle with yourselves, be kind to animals, and do all you can to allow your authentic selves to shine brightly.